thought I had.
That's fine. Perfect. So we are recording. Excellent. So item number 1 on the agenda is the public participation session, and we have got 1, 2, 3, 4 members of the public. I'm going to go to Martin first, if that's all right. Martin, would you like to grab Daryl's speaker microphone?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for listening to me. I've got 3 simple points. As you know, I'm a member of ORPC, Vice Chairman. I'm not here in that capacity, just to explain some stuff to you. As your largest neighbour, Oswestry Rural Parish Council takes decisions on planning that affects Oswestry directly. We have to engage with the planning officials who remain as unhelpful as ever. For example, Farcliffe Farm at Trevonny. It's a big industrial farm for cattle. The agricultural routes for feed, waste, animals is either out through Trevonny and down to Longcliffe Crossroads, or Upper Brook Street, or Brook Street, so through Oswestry, up past Oswestry School to Trevonny Road, that way. Now, the size of these vehicles is very, very large, and you all know what a pinch point that is there. Planning will not engage with us. They're doing planning via Google Maps, and you end up with a situation where it's very dangerous for people in that area. Oswestry School of an evening is particularly busy now with the sports clubs and facilities on offer. It is very dangerous for people, and we cannot get planning to engage on simple things like this. They should be working with us as well as developers. And if we can work as councils together, things like this, you should have been consulted on, because it affects you and your your community very much. Okay, it's not just restricted to us. We also have the industrial parks that are ours that affect you. Okay, you should be engaged in this with the planning as well, not left to us to make decisions that affect you and your constituents. So we'd like to sort of get on the same page with that, and we will, with Aaron at the HMO meeting. Can I just
ask you to wind it up as soon as possible?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've only got a few points.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we'd like to work with that. That's that one. I spoke about flag waving at the last meeting. As you know, I'm ex-armed forces. I spent quite a few years on submarines, more than I'd like to admit. The longest patrol I ever did was 16 weeks. Okay, that's 112 days without sunlight, without seeing anyone. Okay, that equates to 4 months, roughly. HMS Vanguard has just come back from a 204-day patrol. That's nearly 30 weeks or 7 months of the year without any of the above. Okay? To engage with the ex-service personnel, something that might be more appropriate than a flag is perhaps you have every year 10 £50 vouchers to be spent in Oswestry on small local businesses in Oswestry for current serving and ex-service members. It's £50, it costs you about £500, but it would reach out to the service community and say, we recognise your sacrifice and we would like to be here for you. It shouldn't apply or be available to parish councillors like myself. Okay, and lastly is water testing. I've explained to you briefly about water testing and what we do. It would be nice to come back to you and explain in a bit more detail what it involves and the implications that planning has on it in terms of the amount of houses going up and the outfall into the rivers by us. I'm not asking for money, will not be asking for money, just maybe some support. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy your quality sleep.
Thank you. Thank you. Steve, would you like to move towards the microphone? Thank you. And if you could just get you to introduce yourself, that would be wonderful. Perfect.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
So my name is Steve Wilcox. I'm a trustee and here on behalf of Oswestry Community Action often known as Cube. I'm here to ask for some help and support. So you'll know that Cube gets involved with helping elderly, disabled, vulnerable people. We do lots of different things in terms of befriending. We do social things. We help with citizens' advice and lots of other different things. But one of the main things we do is transport. So we have the dial-a-ride system where we currently have about 900 members, so that's 900 elderly, disabled, vulnerable people who rely on dial-a-ride for things like hospital visits, social visits, shopping visits and things like that. Currently, we are coming towards the end of the lease that we have in our current premises, and so we are looking to find another premises, which we've done. I should have said earlier, we have written in, and most of what I'm saying is in the letter that we've sent to you, but I thought it was important that I came along to represent Cube. So we have found another premises, and the premises is next to or near to Marks and Spencer's Food, which means that we need to find alternative parking for the vehicles which we use for dial-a-ride. Currently, we have an arrangement with Iceland where we get free parking for those vehicles in their car park overnight and things like that, which helps us. But the move to the new premises will mean that that current arrangement will no longer be practical. So as the car parks close to the new premises are under the domain of the council, we're asking you if you will provide us with free parking for those vehicles at that car park. And that's the extent of the request that we have. So you have a letter which gives a little bit more detail than I've gone into, but I thought that it was important that I came along to give you the opportunity in case there's anything else you wanted to ask of me before you get to the debate on whether or not to help us.
Thank you.
Okay?
That's great.
Anything else?
It is the discussion session,
Okay.
but thank you. That's
Thanks.
really kind of you. We'll move over to Michael. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening everyone. Yeah, I'm Michael Bastow, who came to the last meeting. I just wanted to follow that up, and also the climate fresque, which I believe we had 10 councillors to, and a lot of energy, and I thought good discussion. The point for this evening is to really just follow that up with kind of an emphasis that, you know, we are in a climate crisis now. It is happening, and the story goes a little bit negative around, you know, the need for food and you know, the steps towards zero carbon and active transport, and etc. What we could do with housing, but it's also an emphasis really. What I'd like to make this evening, it's a real opportunity for people to get involved in the town around something very positive and collaborative in a world where quite often I just hear a lot of negativity and sort of division around the way things are, particularly with our national politics. But it seems like the answer, and I'm sure you agree with this, the answer needs to come kind of more locally, and I think a little bit more collaboratively. So my ask is if it would be okay for you this evening, if possible or soon, to come together again following the fresque to discuss more sort of next steps. And I believe you're doing that this evening in terms of some things. But I think there's an opportunity to connect with communities. You know, if you look at some councils, then they have a sort of an advisory group involving more people from the town. And I think, you know, the outcome of that is people taking responsibility. So it's not about an ask of more finance or your time, which I know is very short with all the challenges that you have. But I think people do know that there's a problem and they don't know what to do. So I'd ask that maybe, you know, you come together as a follow-up from the Fresk with the idea that, you know, how can we get the message, how can you get the message across around how can we all come together and really sort of take on those ideas that we should be all blaming each other and everything about the problems in the world. I think that's it. Thank you
you,
very much
Michael.
for your time and hearing me this evening. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure outside of this meeting we will be in touch in terms of next steps and what we as councillors can do afterwards, which like we've discussed previously. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you. Peter, did you want to talk? No. Okay. Anybody else? No.
So just picking up the points that Martin made in relation to the common themes between Oswestry Rural Parish Council and Oswestry Town Council. I think mindful that we are discussing the potential devolution of Shropshire Council services at some point in the future. It'd be good, I think, if we did have an opportunity to meet, and perhaps I suggest in the first instance, and it's in the first instance that the chairs and vice chairs together with the clerks get together to just understand common themes and issues as a first step. Would that be okay with members? Would that be all right?
I want to suggest that our clerk doesn't personally speak to
Yeah.
members, much more aware of how it's all rather than us part-timers, as it were. She's much more engaged in that and is very, very capable, being qualified accountant helps.
Yeah, I know. I do speak to regularly, so if that's okay, I'll get in touch with Catherine.
Sorry, I have to stick my oar in as the Lanarmonnock Shropshire councillor. Can that also be extended to some of the other neighbouring parishes, please? I mean, I've got 5 in my patch that are also all abut onto Oswestry Town.
And if we're discussing it, can it be extended to Cabowen as well? Because I mean, similar issues apply over there. I mean, if we're having a discussion about it, why just stop?
So with that note, perhaps regretting having said anything, let me just finish, if that's all right. I think that needs a little bit more planning and consideration. I think I'll have to bring an agenda item forward to think about how that might work, because we've had numerous workshops. I think but yeah, I hear what members are saying.
Very quickly, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. Is it worth considering a pilot with Councillor Jones, was it? A suggestion to kind of work out the mechanics?
So I think, yeah, I regret saying this. I think what I'll do, I will speak to my fellow clerks in the area and understand what their feeling is on the matter.
Okay, councillors, let's move on, because I'm really aware of how much time and the size of our pack this evening, to apologies for absence, please.
Apologies for absence from Councillor Johnson, Councillor Moore family, Councillor Mark Roberts work, and I believe Councillor McKinney's poorly, but I haven't had apologies from her, but yeah.
She has reported ill health to some
Okay.
of the members of the majority group.
If members are willing to accept that, then that's fine by me.
Councillors, then we will move on to disclosure of councillors' interests of any matters in relation to the Code of Conduct. I will move from my right-hand side. Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to declare a bias and leave the room for items 4C, 8D and 13H. They all relate to Lewid Mansion, and I'm given to understand that a relative of mine will be working very closely with the company that might be putting a bid in to do the work at some point in the future. So just to protect myself, I'm going to leave the room and not be anything to do with it.
Okay, Jonathan, that's fine. It's your choice. I will move on round. No.
So I think just a bit of advice. So for the so avoid you going in and out. The steering group is just a note. There's nothing for discussion. Discussion there. Obviously, it's your choice whether you do or not. The decision item is the tender. Obviously, that's the crucial one.
Okay, Dave.
Thank you, Chair. Just as Shropshire Councillor with a Cabinet Member for the planning portfolio, because of the neighbourhood plan item principally, but anywhere else on the agenda.
It's the usual thing of declaring the fact that I'm on Shropshire Council and Vice Chair. Does that require anything at this point?
You can say it. I don't think it's need to.
Okay, that's fine.
Moving on now, Councillor James. Sorry.
Just to declare that I am portfolio holder for housing and leisure, but I attend as a town councillor and make decisions as such.
But there's not pertinent to any item. No. Okay. Fine. Okay. Rightio. We will then move on to item number 3, which is minutes of the last meeting on the 10th of September, in which we attempted to get through some of the agenda that evening. Councillors, does anybody have any queries they want to raise about the minutes, or are you happy to move them? Jonathan,
I move.
do you have a seconder? Oh. It's entirely up to you. You're very welcome to.
It was just to note that on the item 61 of the minutes, the planning to do with the Smithfield Hotel, it was just to note that the committee refused the application. It's public knowledge, so I can say it, and an appeal has been lodged on it for the future.
But that wasn't raised at the time. No. And this is a I don't think the minutes need to be changed, though, because this is a record of what happened at the time, so, yeah. Okay, therefore, unless there's any other queries, councillors, Jonathan has proposed that we note and accept. Ruth has seconded. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors.
Get your pen out so I won't forget. Minutes, sign minutes.
Oh, thanks.
That's what we're doing.
Yes.
Thank you. We can get that out of the way now. Thank you.
Rightio, councillors, let's move on swiftly to some subcommittee and working groups. We start off with the Youth Services Partnership Panel. Yes, please.
So, a really full set of minutes from that partnership panel. Looks like they had a great discussion. There are a couple of recommendations for you to consider. So they are recommending to you, and you can either accept them or not. The main one is for you to request a report on the accessibility of period products. I think there was a discussion regarding that. So, you know, you're in accepting the recommendation, you're asking for a further report. There was also discussion on the reallocation of the Time to Talk budget. So this is a service that you've been funding for quite some time, that SYA have now sourced an alternative source of funding. So the value of that contract is about £12,000, and there's an opportunity for that money to be reinvested. So it's a real positive thing. From reading the minutes, I don't think there's a clear recommendation in there, and I think there's further discussion needed. So I think that needs to be referred back to the partnership panel. Oh, and final one, sorry, there is a vacancy for this panel. So if anybody fancies joining, this is because of Councillor Anderton's resignation.
I think the only thing I was going to say was just a reminder that next week on the 16th, it is the High Sheriff's Youth Awareness Day. I know Lakeland are certainly getting involved in wearing blue for the day. I'm not entirely sure whether marchers have chosen to do so or whether they're doing a different route to recognise it, but just a recognition of what we've been requested about in the first place. Okay, councillor, so we've been asked to note the report, so I'm happy to move that from the chair, that we note it. It's seconded by Jonathan. All those in favour, councillors? Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I think as part of your accepting them, as part of accepting the minutes, is how I take it.
Are you comfortable with that, Duncan? Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. So we move on to the meetings of the Cowglass Park and Cemetery Management Group.
So I don't know if the chair would rather introduce this item than I do. It might be worth in the future doing that. But I think there's two particular recommendations in there that you need to consider. So introducing a pilot scheme for under 21s to use the mugger at a reduced rate. That's a very clear recommendation. Because they don't have delegated powers to make financial decisions, that has to come from you. And then the second one is the a recommendation to commission a landscape architect to take a strategic view of the park. A further report will be needed on that one because they'll have to determine the scope and the cost of that. And also members need to be mindful that you're thinking about taking on an additional 8 play areas as well, so you may want to hold off that piece of work until you take a you know your whole portfolio. But yeah, so there's a clear recommendation regarding under 21s.
Chair of the committee, is there anything else that you want to add?
I think everything's been covered.
Okay, so we've got those two things to note. And so in voting upon the minutes and acceptance of the minutes, we're also voting on acceptance of those two recommendations. So councillors, unless you've got any further comments that you want to raise, I'm going to move the minutes from the chair then. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Ruth. All those in favour? Thank you very much, councillors. One abstention. Thank you. Okay. Very satisfying getting rid of paper. We move then on to item C, which is the Fluid Mansion Steering Group. Just wait for Jonathan to depart shortly.
So it's just a case of bringing these forward to you for noting. There's no decisions to be made. Give you a little bit of reassurance that the governance framework is working. Making some really good progress. Really pleased with where we're at. Still a lot of work to do. Just that the only point on here is that Councillor Moore has stood down from the group. It meets during the day. It meets on a Thursday afternoon now, I think. So it can be difficult for members to attend. I appreciate that. You can attend in person or Teams. But we're looking for you don't have to be interested. As long as you just come.
An enthusiastic member of a council. If there's anybody that's enthusiastic that would like to step up, that would be marvellous. Excellent, Richard. Thank you, Richard. Well done. Appreciate that. So we going back to the actual minutes themselves.
All those in favour? Yeah.
Going back to the minutes, therefore, is everybody in the room happy to accept and note the minutes of the steering group without any recommendations that are within the report? All those in favour, please, councillors. Thank you very much. Okay. The next one is to answer any questions in accordance with the standing orders upon which formal notice has been given. Over to you, Aaron.
So, thank you, Mike, for attending as well, asking the questions. So, there are 3 parts to this. Oh, I forgot about Jonathan.
Welcome back, Jonathan.
Thank you, Henry. So, there are 3 parts to this. What are the Town Council's vision and targets? What's its strategy and its next steps in 2025-26? I think this council has been proactive on both declaring a climate emergency and a biodiversity crisis. It's undertaken a carbon audit and has a biodiversity strategy, and it has a target of being carbon neutral by 2030. And I think members receive not regular reports, but do receive reports on how we're progressing. The biggest decision that the council took was to move towards certified green energy production. So energy use was our biggest carbon footprint. We have introduced electric vehicles, electric vehicle charging points, and a whole host of other actions: sustainable planting, free bus, loft insulation, and 17,000 trees. So I think there has been quite a lot of action. There are things, there's more to be done. I think we're still looking to reduce our energy use and implementing things like, you know, the secondary glazing as part of that. We have a few tricky issues. Having an alternative to the diesel tractor is one of those, and we will always generate waste. So, you know, how we minimise that. So aside from that, I think the council's demonstrated a strong commitment. I think Mike's asked a question about a follow-up to the workshop. With members' permission, I'm happy to try and arrange that with Mike. My suggestion to Mike was that we split it into 2 sessions. That 3 hours is a long time, and that's done in a series. And if that's okay, Mike, we can perhaps try and arrange a date. Okay, happy to note that.
Okay, councillors, so we are just being asked to note that. So all those in favour? Thank you very much, councillors. We then move on to Oswestry Team Tennis Clubhouse, and you've got a small report in front of you. I think this is 3rd iteration that we've seen. Over to you, Aaron.
Yes, and we have Clive Knight online, who's worked through all 3 iterations, and yeah, has been very resolute in trying to find this solution to what has been a vision for the Oswestry Team Tennis. So I think the council's been supportive all the way through. I think for me this is just crossing the T's and dotting the I's, because you have supported a scheme, you have supported various iterations, but I think Clive would like you just to support it before they put the planning application. It looks good, it looks like a good facility, and I would recommend that you can take it forward.
Mark.
Yeah, just a quick one. Yep, excellent. I read through it. I think when it came here last, it was before the election, wasn't it? So, yeah. I went to the planning portal to see if there was already a planning permission on this, because the comment here is for a planning variation, but I couldn't find it, and I didn't want to disturb Aaron at the time. Have we got the planning number so I can actually put it in and have a look at separately myself?
I don't have it to hand, but yeah, but what I'd ask, Mark, is if you could remind me. Send me a remind me, and I'll remember.
My rudimentary planning search didn't actually bring anything up. I did several, but if you could circumvent that, would be great. I'll send you an email. Thank you.
James, did you want to say something?
It was just sort of based on the last item that there's no sort of, again, if there's no planning permission, but also it's like double glazing, quite often triple glazing is used now to sort of keep heat in, and especially if it's a sort of looking forward to try and reduce energy on our land, etc. It'd be good just to see what they're doing in the planning to sort of keep climate in the centre of it all.
Yeah, I will. Thank you, Councillor Owen. I will feed that back. I'm sure Clive can hear that as well. They're very keen to reduce the costs. So yeah, if we'll work with them to get a really good solution.
Brilliant. Okay. Clive, you're on. We're all in support. So councillors, just to vote on that one, noting the update from Clive. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Councillors, we then move on to the future of CCTV in Oswestry, and hopefully you've had a good chance to read the full report from Aaron on the CCTV.
So nothing in this report should be a surprise to you. We've had regular updates. I've been quite keen on sort of developing policy in stages with you, because I appreciate there's a lot to know, and I've been learning through this as well. The report and the recommendations are predicated on two things. One, that the system is delivered and managed by Oswestry Town Council in partnership with others, rather than being delivered in partnership. So there's a subtle difference there. And that CCTV is a good thing for Oswestry, and it keeps people safe. So moving forward on that, and also, you know, the feedback from members, if we don't do it, who else will? Very grateful. I hope you found the visit to the police station useful, gave you a feel for the scale of operation, and thank you. I really appreciated your time in coming down there as well. There's a series of recommendations. Some have some quite substantial implications, such as the CCTV coordinator becoming an employee as opposed to a contractor, and a little bit to think about and work through with regard to the volunteers. What I'd also say, there's clearly a need for additional funding. Current budget is about £25,000. It does cover everything that we need to cover. The recommendation in the budget will be that that needs to go up to in excess of 40, so an additional £15,000 just to cover the additional costs of an employee as opposed to a contractor. Happy to try and answer any questions if I can.
Okay, Duncan.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're all very appreciative of the work the CCTV team do, but just trying to get this through, we've got to set the budget quite soon, haven't we? The CCTV coordinator, I suppose we just need to establish, is a full-time post? Is this more than a full-time post when they're on leave or away or sick? What happens then? And are there other duties this person could take on, or is they full-time managing? We need I think if we're going to take them on as an employee, we need to have more clarity about what they're actually doing, and should there be an enhancement beyond the CCTV in that role, and how does that fit? And we need that pretty quickly, because we've got to set some sort of budget, and obviously depending on what they do, depend on their salary, will depend on the budget, so the two things are all integrated.
James.
I feel it's also, if we do create a role that is a CCTV coordinator, it would be an open role that would go out to allow anybody to apply for it, rather than just bringing in the current contractor as a.
It would be an advertised post. Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the reasons that this has come to the fore is that the current coordinator, stated quite clearly, wishes to retire. So there needs to be change is going to happen. It would be advertised, and similarly, if it was a contractor role, it would be advertised as a tender opportunity as well.
Any further comments or questions or queries, Duncan?
Could I ask Clark to also talk to BID, because I'm conscious that this makes a significant contribution to the town, and BID have been very appreciative of it. We're getting into the nitty-gritty now of the costs of it, and I do think we ought to have a discussion with them about that before we just assume all the costs will fall to the council. Is that okay?
Yes. Yep, absolutely.
I think that's a good point, and one that hadn't factored in. Clearly, they fund the street rangers, so I think there's some synergy there. So yeah, I'll pick that up. Perhaps as a way forward, then, I think there's a series of recommendations which you'll need to consider with regard to the coordinator. What you're saying to me, what I'm hearing, is that you need a job role and job description drawn up and evaluated, so you come up with a salary cost, but in the first instance discuss it with the BID to see if there's any alternatives.
Duncan.
Or bite. I mean, it may be that BID are a better employer than we are of this person. I don't know. It may be.
My only query about the BID is based upon employee numbers, whether as an organisation they can request an enhanced DBS or not. I think organisations have to be a certain size, and I'm not sure that they are big enough to be able to be an employee.
Do the Rangers have that? You'd presume the Rangers would have an enhanced. I don't.
So I'll discuss with them the options. BID's got a limited period. It's only, I think it's coming up for vote in 2 years, 2-3 years as well. So that's another thing to factor in. But I'll have that conversation and bring something forward. but I think what I'd be good to get is a feel that you think it should be part of the establishment, and I can move forward on that basis.
Okay, so we have got a large number of recommendations and key actions there. Do you want voting on masse, on block? Councillors, is there any one of those recommendations or key actions that you are not comfortable with? No? Okay. There we go then. So, councillors, we are therefore voting on the full set of recommendations and key actions and the summary of actions that Aaron has just mentioned. With some work. Sorry. Okay. Councillors, all those in favour, please. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. We then move on to the town talking newspaper and the occupation thereof.
Or Oswestry Talking News, as they corrected me, because they provide information in a range of different formats. So
Stand corrected.
yes, no, I was corrected as well. So we've had a long relationship with the trustees. They use the building free of charge. They occupy a room, but only use it on a Thursday and once a month on a Tuesday. It's a fairly large room. You're well aware that we're short of space. I'm always moaning about accommodation. It would be hugely beneficial if we were able to share that space and develop that room into a shared space. The discussions have been really positive. They're willing to work with us. There's a couple of things I just need from you, which is to confirm that you're happy for Oswestry Talking News to occupy the building under the current terms, as in it's free. And then just sort of authorise Henry and I to do some more feasibility work. It's called feasibility work, but just understand how that room would work for both parties and what we would use it for. Just before I finish, there is of course a bigger picture, which is Shropshire Council Services and devolution and your whole decision making around that. There isn't enough room within this building for all the staff that we could be taking, and we are looking at what options that the council could have for the future. So there are a whole number of things that we need to factor in collectively.
Okay, Jonathan.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in favour of supporting any organisation that does things like this. The Oswestry Talking News have been established for a long time. They've provided a lifeline for people who require their services. So anything we can do to support them would be brilliant. These are just some questions more than anything. I mean, I'm presuming that any work that would need to be done into developing into the shared space, would it be solely us as a council fitting it out, or would we like go in halves? Or if we do need that room desperately, is there anywhere else in our estate that we can offer them as well, just for looking into when feasibility is done?
Yeah, thank you. I think the view is that the cost would be borne by the town council. It would be to our advantage to do it if the room. It's a bit like this. It hasn't been decorated since this was decorated. So yeah, it's not great. I'm not talking about a massive amount of money. There's nowhere else for it to go within our estates. We have no other buildings. Yeah.
I think in an age where a lot of people hybrid work, remote work, in and out of the office, we're far from the time when people work 9 to 5 in the same desk every day, all day. So I think having that flexibility and being able to have that neutral space seems like a good idea to me. Councillors, we are just being asked to note the recommendations and allow Aaron and Henry to move forward with that. So all those in favour, please, councillors. Unanimous. Thank you. Go. Okay, we move on to the centre roof, something that has definitely been around for a number of years since we started this journey.
I'm not sure how to respond to the point about a journey. It's certainly been a journey, and this hopefully is the end. We're seeing the end of it with this. The centre was always taken on based on an understanding that the roof was in a poor condition. It's very disappointing that is in a poor condition, but that was a decision that the council took on the transfer of an asset, and also accepted it would be the town council's responsibility to fund the work. It would be unfair to pass that liability on elsewhere. It's taken an awful long time to get to a point where we could agree a specification and invite tenders. We've been working with various designers and quantity surveyors to try and get the right solution, one that guarantees the roof, and I think that was always been important to me, is that it came with a guarantee, and that we wouldn't have to do any work on it for 25 years in this case. And so we've found a solution that we're pleased with. It's been out to tender. It would see three elements, three elements: the roof, air conditioning replaced, which it needs to, that's partly because it sits on the roof, so you can't do the air conditioning afterwards. Otherwise you're damaging the roof and you lose your guarantee. And then the third part of this is that it's to put in a what they call a man safe, not my words, but it's to ensure that people can go up the roof safely. So currently it's ladders and all sorts should never have been designed that way. It's important that whoever goes up to the roof is kept safe. We've followed quite a robust process, as you can see. It's been carried out independently as well of the council because it's needed some technical expertise, which Henry has some, I have none. And there's a clear recommendation in there, and it's to go with the cheapest cost. And I say cheapest, it's still awful lot of money. We funded from the Smithfield Capital windfall receipt, and it's a little bit of a heavy heart be bringing this forward to you, if I'm honest. But there we go.
Councillors. Sorry, James.
Again, it's just a question of one with the finishes. They're open, like obviously it's a flat roof, so it's more difficult. But putting something like solar panels on the top, would you be able to do that at a later stage? Should the tenant or ourselves wish to, or would it be better to sort of consider that at this stage?
So it hasn't been within the scope. So it falls outside the scope of the tender. Would it be better? Means delaying. I'm not sure. I have a direct answer. I'm not sure flat roofs are. Henry, is the roof suitable for solar? Given. Yeah. So those being the with the galvanised steel on them. It's difficult because it's coming late in the day. It hasn't been raised before for me to answer constructively, James. So I can't answer the question.
Duncan.
Our hall had lots of solar panels on its flat roof, so it's perfectly possible, but I would recommend in this case we just get on with fits in the roof. We can always fit solar panels at any time. It's not going to be fixed by the same contractors. It's an electrical installation. They'd probably need the roof done first, so the roof would have to be fixed first before you can put solar panels on it anyway, and I think that would be a separate contract, which is a good idea, and we can certainly look at. We did try to. Many years ago, there was some funding scheme for public sector buildings. I remember all about this, and we got quite excited, and the town council advanced to a stage where it could have been the administrator of these funds, and the scheme was all pulled. So it all collapsed. But, you know, there is huge scope for public buildings in Oswestry to have more solar production, solar panels. So it's a great idea. I just don't think it should delay this scheme, because we really need this done, and then we can come back to others in my view.
James, are you comfortable with that recommendation? It's a really good point. Are you comfortable with that then, Aaron? That so, councillors, this evening we are being asked to decide whether we are comfortable with contractor A, based upon the fact that bottom three, the C isn't fully usable. So we have A and B, and A being the cheapest one. So, councillors are, if we're comfortable to vote on that, and then do you want to raise a motion to say that we, after the fact, look at solar panels?
I would just like the answer sort of circulated. It would be interesting just to get the answer circulated of
In the future.
in the
solar
future.
panels, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so those two recommendations, councillors, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Right. Okay. Item B. Licence to trade. Okay, councillors, you've got a report from the operations manager to the council in terms of the licence to trade, and so Aaron and I did the initial check of the tenders that came in, and then we moved to meeting Councillor Johnson, Councillor Helmet, myself. That was it, yep, as part of the tender liaison that morning.
So shall I come in?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I think to try and bring this in conclusion, there was much discussion at that tender liaison group about the disappointment that we only had two proper submissions and a third which didn't quite fit the criteria. And it's clear that the tender liaison group heard why the current providers haven't submitted, that it's not cost effective for them to do so. The requirements for them to be in the park often means that their expenses are high and it's not bringing in the money. So in light of all of this and the information report, I think the recommendation is that the Cowglass Park group need to have another look at this issue and reviews the specification and then re-advertises the process. I don't think based on what you have in front of you and the feedback that you can appoint.
James.
I think a difficulty here is we don't really know how many people use the park and at what times. It's whether it would be useful to sort of spend a bit of money to do a say 6 months or a year of just monitoring the entrances of the park to see when people are going in, and therefore we have better data of, because nobody's going to want to tender if they just like, well, if they don't know how many people, it's always speculative of how many people are in the park and when. It'd be far easier to give a specification of come at these times because that's when it's been busy in the past. It was just a suggestion.
Didn't BID at one point have a flow system where they could work out from internet usage of One Oswestry and things like that? Right back in the beginning when BID turned up, that was one of the selling points, wasn't it, Duncan?
Yeah, they got attacking mobile phones basically. They can do that on provided and they have data on flows right the way through the town.
I just
So
don't know whether they're still
I don't
doing
think
it.
we chose not to buy into their data. If you remember, this is back when the Tories controlled the council, and I was very keen that we didn't buy into their data so we could use it for this purpose. They may let us use it anyway. I don't know, but we
That's
didn't.
whether they're still doing
We didn't
it or not.
contribute to it, so we'd only have to ask. But they might, it should give you data over a long period of time, 3 or 4 years worth of data, because 1 year can be quite deceptive if it's sunny or shiny or rainy or whatever. So, I don't. Last time, I think these contractors felt they could bring people into the park. You know, people would go for an ice cream who wouldn't go into the park otherwise. So you know, it's not a fixed quota of people in the park. It's a flexible thing as to whether people want to go there and want to have a coffee there and want to have an ice cream there. So I don't know.
But I guess here's a point about what are we asking as part of the tender liaison group? What are our kind of definitions of suitability? And so, and are we knocking somebody out because they'll only do between 8 AM and 10 AM, for example? Duncan?
Sorry, I stepped the point. I'm just a bit confused because I thought the first tenderer, it meets the criteria and could be awarded. Is that not correct? There was one tenderer who was offering ice cream, from what I read, who met the criteria, and I suppose I'd be a bit disappointed if we don't awarded the contract. But have I?
No, but I do apologise. I did what I said nobody should do, was press the button. I was just so keen to get in. I think we followed up with that particular trader, and they clarified that they weren't offering the full amount. So they were offering half the amount that you'd asked for, and so that, you know, to be fair and equitable to everybody, they were offering £1,000 and not willing to pay the £2,000 a year. So to be fair and equitable to everybody, you should be advertising at £1,000 if that's what you're willing to accept, for example. I think the right thing is for the Caglass Park Group to have another look at it.
Fiona.
I just think we have discussed before about flow and how many people went in. I don't actually see, because, you know, we talk a lot about Caglass and how we can improve it and how we can get more money from it and all the rest of it. And I would have thought that fundamental to anything is to find out how many people actually use it, when, where and how. And I don't think we can go much further with anything until we understand that. So if we can get data from someone, I think it would be very useful.
So I don't know the nature of that data. The Caglass, you know, that can be presented. The Caglass working group is not difficult, and you can look at the robustness of that data, whether it does cover the park or not. I'm not certain. I think there was a change in system, and I don't think it picked up the park. However, Caglass Park Group can look at it, and they can review the specification and come back.
Okay, so the recommendation is that it goes back to Duncan.
Sorry, can I raise a question of timescales? I mean, it's all well to review it, but this contract runs out in April, does it? So we're going to extend the current contract for another year to give us time to review it, or we're going to... The problem we had last time was we ran out of time. We were trying to decide this, I think, in February, March, and there were issues which, in hindsight, we wish we'd had longer over. And therefore, I'm probably suggesting that if we're going to consider data, we're going to rewrite the contract, then you have to go back out to other contractors. It seems, at the time we're doing the budget round as well, quite a lot of work, and wouldn't it be prudent to extend the current contract by a year, I suppose?
Difficult one for me to answer, given that the current providers didn't put a submission in. So, yeah. So, but I think that's a matter. Again, that's a matter the Caglass Park Group can look at and report back, and we can make the inquiries if need be.
The current one are saying they're losing money. They're not going to jump at having their contract extended, are they? I mean, it's so I don't think there's any point in that. I think we just have to...
I think I'll take one more comment, and I think we
To move that we do actually ask them before we make assumptions about their situation. The difficult about putting it off is that they were making plans now for next summer. I would if I was an ice cream salesperson. If they've got a offer here, that might be better than trying to re-establish their business elsewhere. I've no idea, Duncan, but it seems now would be the time to talk to them about potential contract extension, just to give ourselves the time to do the research which we seem to need to do in order to get the best route going forward from there. And it just avoids a clear problem we had last time. Can't learn from experience at all. Rosie was there, Donovan was there, and Jay was there as well. It wasn't a pleasant experience, and we wish we'd had more time.
Okay, I don't think there's an issue with asking the question, but I think any further decision needs to start back with the Caglass Management Group. So, in light of that, if councillors are happy that we move to note this with the addition that we go to the current leaseholders, licence holders, and ask if they would like their licence extended for a period of 3 months.
I think we have to be very careful, because we've gone through an open tender process, and that'll probably be the recommendation. It's for the Caglass, in my view, for the Caglass Park Group to determine, based on, and we can ask the question to the would you be interested in extending your contract, yes or no, and then we can move forward from that point. If you get the no's, you know your answer.
Okay, councillors, if we are comfortable with that outcome, then all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, we then move on to tender
Yeah, so with this item, it's difficult to know which should go first. You have to note the minutes, but obviously the things have changed since that meeting. And you know, you've actually made a recommendation based on a report. So could you just please note that that group met? I think it provides you with some reassurances that we followed a robust process.
Okay, councillors, I think I did it the wrong way round. Apologies. So yeah, if we can note the report and the minutes. So all those in favour, please. Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Okay, we then move on to item D. Aaron.
So getting into some quite exciting times with Llwyd Mansion. This is now the opportunity, or scary depending on your perspective, because this enabling works will see what was left of the Tony and Guy salon ripped out. We've got a proper view of what condition that building is in. So this is to consider the appointment of a heritage conservation building team. We've followed a tender process. The lottery have signed it off. The steering group have signed it off, and the final people just to sign this off are yourselves. I think it's important that you do have oversight, but mainly oversight that a robust process has been followed, not necessarily an oversight of the decisions that they're making, because it's difficult for you to change their recommendations. So, yeah, what I'm asking you to do is to note and agree the decision made by the project steering group. There are no financial implications for this council.
Okay, councillors, any comments? No? Okay. All I would just say is, councillors, if you have an opportunity to go back and visit Llwyd Mansions in its current state, it's really interesting. I went a couple of weeks ago, and I think with the salon equipment taken out, that'll be even more fascinating, because you then start to see the real building inside. So, given what Aaron has talked about, and we are the last of the people to approve, councillors are all in favour. Fabulous. Unanimous. Darryl, would you mind going to get Jonathan, please?
I'll go.
Oh, one of us, don't mind. Got to remember this time. Okay. Excellent. We then move on to item 9, and reports from the Project Development Officer, the first one being the neighbourhood plan.
So, thank you, Mayor. At the last meeting, you considered a briefing note. We've had several updates on this. Again, so as the way that we're doing policy making is that we're bringing things forward month on month to help you get a clear picture of what's needed, rather than landing items with you for instant decision. You asked for an update on indicative budget, which we've brought forward. What I hadn't realised, or what Corrie and I hadn't realised when we prepared the reports previously, is that the loss of government funding wasn't just cash to pay consultants. It was actually loss of access to planning expertise, technical advice that they had commissioned through a framework agreement. So you didn't have to pay for that advice; you had it as part of the process. And so the cost implications are more significant than I had thought. This is an issue. If you want to do it, you have to do it well, and you have to go for it. There's some suggestions of how we might do that. We talked last time about committing town council existing town council staff, which is completely doable. I've given you an option of backfilling that post if you so wish, and I've given you an initial view on the budget. It is only a budget, and it is based on an average from the people that we've spoken to. But I think the cost implications are significant. But you know, I've highlighted some of the benefits within there as well. So over to you,
Councillors, Dave.
Thank you, Chair. In the appendix, you've got about the housing need assessment, needing a robust one. I'm assuming the because the numbers have got to be agreed with Shropshire Council from the standard methodology and worked down from all that. But you had a housing needs survey 3 or 4 years ago, so it will need updating. It's not going to be a massive change to do that, I wouldn't have thought. And there was another bit in the appendix where it implied you didn't know about the 20,000 for the referendums, and because my understanding is the government have underwritten that now, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I hadn't updated I've represented the briefing note that we gave you in probably July time, just to give you a little bit more context. But yeah, no, we are liaising with Shropshire Council and their neighbourhood planning officer, so we understand the next steps.
James?
I think given the sort of obvious lack of a local plan and just generally our needs in Oswestry are different to what a local plan at Shropshire would anyway provide, I feel like we do need to go forward with this. Like, the areas that have got a neighbourhood plan are happy that they have it. Like, there's a lot of detail that you can go into to sort of meet the niche needs of a town like ours, and I feel like we should be happy to carry on with the funding. I think we're looking to reduce our reserves anyway, so the fact that it's also quite a short-term project. It's not like an ongoing cost that once it's done, it's sort of done. So I feel like budgeting for it isn't like as far as an ongoing year cost. So using reserves instead would be a better sort of idea.
Dave and Duncan.
You will need to review it, and as policy changes elsewhere, you might need to review it more frequently than 5 years, but they talk about 5 years. So whether you set some aside each year to, like you would with elections, to build up a pot to use, I don't know whether you do it that way or whatever, but there's different ways you can do it.
Duncan.
Yeah, it's annoying that the government hasn't sought to protect the rural communities and is effectively attacking them by removing these sorts of funding streams, but I don't think our residents should suffer as a result of that. I think this is what you have a town council for. I know it's always difficult when there's money and it's hard work and it's probably unrewarding work, but at the end of the day you do get more seal money. So, you know, the payback to the community comes through access to that down the line. So I genuinely think it's in the best interest of our town. There is a payback at the end of the line, and I think we should carry on and push forward as a priority for the town. It's probably one of the most important things we can do for the town going forward. And yes, it will need to be reviewed and revised, but that's probably an easier job than writing the whole thing in the first place.
2 seconds. I will bring you in, Mark. I think the only thing I was going to say is, from my point of view, I would happily backfill based upon our in-house already experienced members of staff, and if we are able to get them to support this project, I would happily backfill them with something else. It feels better to keep that experience and knowledge in-house that we already have. So, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm agreeing with the previous speakers. I think it is a good idea. Mention of the sill, I've forgotten the exact figures, perhaps somebody could actually fill that in, but as an example, the large development on Shrewsbury Road in my ward, where we're actually adding 760 odd houses over the next few years, and if the sill money increases as a result of a neighbourhood plan, it is quite a significant amount. That development has already started, so it may actually miss the opportunity for that. But that kind of development with a neighbourhood plan would actually benefit us through additional money coming in. So, yeah, I certainly support what the previous speakers have said.
Okay, councillors, to move this on then, it feels like most of us are absolutely in agreement and would like to move forward with this, Aaron. Our colleagues, councillors, are we comfortable with the concept of also looking at backfilling our current post holder to be able to deliver this, or look at that, be part of a wider scheme of looking at things?
So I think the commitment's really good, so I do appreciate that, because if you're going to go for it, you know, it's going to be a lot of commitment from yourselves as well, and input, and a lot of community engagement. So, you know, I think that's to be welcomed. It gives you an opportunity to perhaps address some of the policy issues that you are faced with on a you know, regular basis as well. So I think there's lots of positives there. We can deliver this. The question is about backfilling. We can't take on additional projects. You know, I think that's the issue. We've got, Mayor, I think we've got a HR panel coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and I wonder whether we discuss both this role and the CCTV coordinator at that meeting, and discuss the need. Sorry, I wasn't sure where that was coming from. Discuss the need for staffing, and what particular elements we could do with supporting. I would like to get a steer on whether you think we should be investing more resource into youth work and having some expertise in that area, given that it's a particular area of focus for this council. Don't need a decision, but it'd be useful just to get a view.
Okay, Duncan.
Mentioned in the report, and we haven't brought up, is the area designation on it, because again, wearing my hat as Shropshire Councillor for surrounding ones, and the contribution we had earlier about Osprey Rural as well, I suspect that some of them might like to be drawn in as part of it. How they could then contribute financially towards it is another question.
I think it comes to a point you're going to have to decide whether you want to be within your own boundary or beyond. As part of the process, you have to define the plan area, and then there's a consultation period. I understand the view. I've gone for the keep it simple approach, and the fact that we would be funding it and putting officer time in. I think if members are minded to look beyond our boundary, I'm going to have to discuss it with those parishes, and then come back at a later date with a recommendation. So I think if you're minded to look beyond our boundaries, I'm going to have to come back at a later date to just confirm that with you.
But I think this evening, councillors, if we are comfortable with the recommendations of this current report as is,
I think, Mayor, sorry, I think you need to be saying that we want you, Aaron, to go and talk to the other parishes, okay, because that is time implication for the project and for me as an officer, or whether you're saying our preference would be the town.
Duncan.
Yeah, there's a huge number of issues involved in other parishes. How do you apportion costs? Obviously, they will unlock sewer money for them, which we won't share the benefit of. So, you know, you have that perversity as well, because they've got more land development than we have. And we haven't got that much land for development. The surrounding parishes have significant land for development potential. So how the money flows back, do they understand what the full process is, and how long will it take them as a parish to understand? I mean, if they were knocking on our door, I might feel rather different about it, but the reality is I think it's been well known that we've been talking about this and wanting to proceed in this. I know one parish has proceeded, but the others haven't shown any interest. So I suppose my feeling is really we ought to progress on our own boundaries, and if any parish comes knocking on our doors, we can talk to them. But our obligation is to our own residents. And if others want to join with us, it's up to them to come and speak to us. I don't think we've got the financial wherewithal, the officer capacity to recreate the borough council, which is effectively what we're trying to do, recreate a bigger Oswestry with its hinterland and how it links to its hinterland. It would be lovely to do that, but we're not funded to do that. We haven't got the powers to do that, and we haven't got the staff to do that. And that's an unfortunate fallout of local government reorganisation, isn't it?
Dave.
And the other thing to bear in mind is that when it goes forward, you'll need to have different bespoke elements in it for all of the parts, because their needs are going to be different. So you're going to have to feather it and tailor it to everybody who's joined in. So when it's been mentioned about Shrewsbury having it, it wouldn't work for them because their needs are different all over the town. So they'd have to have much smaller areas than the whole town. So there's different pressures and things. So it's
Councillors, maybe
I definitely suggest, as Duncan said, we carry on, and then if there's opportunities down the line, then you can take advantage of it.
point, don't forget there's a ballot at the end of the day. So if you're a smaller parish council, your wishes could be overridden by the people of Oswestry voting for what happens in your area, because that's what will happen. The ballot will presumably have to be of the whole area. The majority of the population will live in Oswestry. That will decide the future of Border or Bowen or wherever it is. And I don't think people have got an election framework to reflect that. We haven't got that. That's not how we have elected people to make decisions. So I just think it's too big. I think you'll kill it, basically. If you go down that line, we'll spend 2 years talking about it and working it out, and we will not have made progress. I think if we carry on, we can share the learning. It doesn't stop another council coming on with its own, taking its own neighbourhood plan, and we're happy to share with them the learning points we've had and how we've gone about it, and to assist them in that way. And that might be more helpful, I would suggest. Then they can have their own ballot on their own plan, and it's their plan rather than, well, our plan, I suppose.
Okay, I'm assuming we need a motion, therefore, because we're changing what the recommendation is.
I don't think it's changing the recommendation.
I think that's Mark.
Thank you, Chair. I like the idea of working with the surrounding villages. However, I'm concerned that it would extend the time period a lot and add to the complexity. I think you need to start somewhere, and then, as Councillor Walker said, you then extend it afterwards. You need to make a start, because otherwise you could be a decade before you actually get anywhere. So I like the idea of cooperation, and I'm sure there are ways of doing it, but for speed and for the process, I think we stick initially to the town boundary, and we work forward with that.
Okay. Duncan, are you happy to...
Well, I'm listening to the room. I'm listening to a room of people saying they seem to know what surrounding parishes think, when actually I attend meetings of 5 surrounding parishes and probably have a better idea of what they think. But if that's what the view of people here, you know, as people here are saying, you can't hear the other councils saying this. Well, actually, in their discussions in their meetings, they have discussed what they do about having neighbourhood plans, and there have been discussions about whether they should be working with Oswestry Town on doing this. So, but never mind if people don't agree with it. They don't agree with it.
Okay. I'm a little bit... councillors, therefore, I'm okay. I'm going to go.
Jump to help.
Yes.
If I can. So I suppose so. What we're saying is that we'd like to pursue a neighbourhood plan. The town council is willing to commit resources into it. I'm willing to offset some of the costs using its reserves. I think we are going to ask the HR panel to look at the staffing implications. You will need a report, so you're going to ask for a report to set out the next steps, because you are going to have to set objectives. So what do you want to get out of it? And you're going to have to set up a steering group. So at some point in the future, you'll be considering that report. Then you've got a decision about the town boundary. That's a matter for you to determine. But the recommendation in here is that we focused on the town. If members want to change that, you can do. It's entirely up to you, having had the discussion.
Grace.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me, members, I'm feeling rather unwell, but I am minded, listening to the discussion tonight, that we're talking about a plan for Oswestry, and at the same time we are looking at the devolution of services from Shropshire Council, which we may have to do in partnership with other councils. We've already heard from ORPC this evening, who are talking about wanting our clerks to engage and share information and work more closely together. I wonder if it might be an appropriate way forward at this juncture for our clerk to write to the clerks of the neighbouring parishes and ask if there is any will or interest in engaging with Oswestry in this. And that opens the door. That does not bind us to working with them, but it does allow them to express if they do have an interest or otherwise, at a time when we are talking about enhanced partnership working with Shropshire and other parishes in many other ways.
Dave.
I've got no problem with that at all, but this is a planning policy document, and the planning policies need to work for the different places. And I can just see tension on policies conflicting things, so that's the only reservation I've got. I've got no problem with talking to anybody. As I just said to Duncan, there's nothing to stop the rural hinterland doing a collective neighbourhood plan, because they've got more commonality perhaps and things. But I don't know, there's different ways of doing it, but certainly talking to them and finding out to find, I don't have an issue with that.
Okay, councillors, I'm going to suggest that we are agreeing or disagreeing or whatever on moving forward for Oswestry as per the recommendations in here, but at the same time the clerk move to communicate with other clerks in the area to see whether they have an interest in working together. I think it's part of a bigger picture in terms of what Martin Jones said earlier about planning boundaries and cross interests and things. James, I will bring you in quickly if that's okay, and then I do want to move forward in the agenda, please.
I guess it's more of a point picking up what Councillor Kerr said earlier, that we are limited almost by the boundary, like the fact that Oswestry will expand, and the only ways it can expand are into the neighbouring parishes, at which point those parts, like in our industrial estate, have become part of Oswestry but not governed by Oswestry Town Council. Sorry, that was a very awful voice crack, but it's a matter of, this is where almost a community governance review to allow the areas around Oswestry to be brought into the town council area might be needed, because I feel if you ask the parishes what they want, they have to, like Oswestry Rural is a perfect example. Maysbury is very unlikely to ever become part of Oswestry in the next 100 years, whereas Morda virtually is Oswestry and uses the facilities in Oswestry and might be better off being part of the boundary to allow the neighbourhood plan to encompass them. But it doesn't really apply to the discussion today. It's just, I think, that is a discussion that is needed at some point.
Dave, as part of the review of a neighbourhood plan, would a review look at changing it because we're encompassing another part, another element? No, it's purely based upon planning policy.
Because it's your policy, it's
Yeah,
your policy
okay.
document, it's not
Yeah.
anybody else's. So if you've defined it, you can review it and expand the criteria, but then you've got to expand the whole process to accommodate it.
Okay.
But it's definitely an issue about everything on the periphery that's actually a linchpin for the town, and the inequity of Bridgenorth had it, and they're going to have it again with Tusley Park getting 1,500 houses, and all that sewer money goes to Tusley Parish, not to the town where the infrastructure is needed. But there's different ways in the charging of things that you can weight things to deal with some of that, but ultimately you're talking about boundary reviews and bigger things than that, and it's beyond the scope of the neighbourhood plan.
Okay, councillors, I need a steer from you tonight, and I'm aware of time moving on. So do I have a proposal on what you wish to vote upon this evening?
I propose that we proceed on the existing boundaries and notify the sounding parishes of our intention to do so, and offer them that we can share our knowledge and expertise as we grow through the process if they want to benefit from that.
Okay, I'm happy to second that from the chair then. Do we have anything further to add to Duncan's motion in the room? No? Okay, is everybody clear on what the motion is? James?
It's more of a query of, should future boundary reviews expand the area? I think, would the neighbourhood plan be amendable for a larger Oswestry, or would it automatically encompass the area?
Well, it would have to have a review as part of the 5-year review or less, because it would be a material change of the town. So then you'd have to review the policies and everything within the town that stood at that point.
So that can be part of a review then. Okay, so we have a motion from Duncan. I'm happy to second that. At this point I'm going to take a vote. So councillors, all those in favour of Duncan's motion? All those against? Any abstentions? So 2 against. Motion carried. Okay. Right, we move therefore on to tree planting, free trees for residents, something that we've done before and we are looking to do again.
Yeah, I'm pleased to report that we've been approached by NALC as a model of good practice for tree planting. The project development officer and I are presenting at the Climate Network on Friday, and we're also preparing a blog for NALC on this very issue. It's been a very successful project, very low cost project. What we're asking for, we'd like to continue. What we're asking for is a sum of up to £2,000 from the New Initiatives Fund to support, to give us a budget to support 3 projects, free tree planting being one, and the tree stalls. The second one was, and I can't see it now, to work with crop to undertake some additional hedging, and then possibly to support a coppice, is that the right coppice?
Yep.
Development, development near the Hillfort, fairly low cost interventions. You've given us a target of 10,000 to hit, and this would give us almost half of it, so it seems like a very low cost positive projects to be involved with.
So we are being asked, councillors, to allocate the sum of £2,000 that's in the New Initiatives Fund to support all the 3 projects and to provide a small sum for contingency and or new ideas. £2,000 for half of our allocation of trees seems like a good idea, and 3 different interesting projects that support Oswestry for the better. So, councillors, unless we've got any comments, oh, James.
I think it's just a comment of, while 10,000 trees are good, just to note that we're not planting 10,000 of the same tree, because that then negatively affects the biodiversity of the area if you're suddenly increasing one species of tree. It's like if you increased ash by 10,000, it'll probably die in 2 years' time. So it's a matter of just noting that we need to be mindful of the fact that the trees are of different species.
I think we can probably take that as read.
And to be fair, and one of the issues I highlight in our presentation and our blog, we aren't experts, and we have got 17,000 trees planted with very little expertise, and we rely on partners. So we do work with the Woodland Trust, Shropshire Wildlife Trust to offer some advice as well. But yeah, I absolutely note the point.
Okay, so councillors, we are being asked to allocate the sum of £2,000. All those in favour, councillors? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay. Fab. We move therefore on to the Cube Community Transport, and Steve's still in the room. Well done, Steve. You're still here. Steve spoke earlier about the request that he had made. Councillors, you've seen the report and the information given. Do we have any comments, Duncan?
One brief comment, which is that Adam Pfeiffer, the Shropshire councillor, spoke to me about this after last full council meeting in Shrewsbury, and in fact I messaged Aaron about the same time that Cube got in touch with him and said, Aaron, can this be brought to full council so that we can say yes to providing Cube with these parking spaces? So fully support, having already been lobbied about it about the same time that Aaron got this communication.
Okay, councillors, any other comments, any thoughts? Sorry, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. I've got no problem supporting it at all. It's an excellent service. The Smithfield Road car park presumably can take the spaces. The access into and out of the road system there presumably can do the job. One question I have got about the central car park, I don't know of a policy previously where we have taken on a particular person or group of people to provide parking permits for, and I just wondered if the clerk can make a comment on that, just to put my mind at rest.
No, your recollection is Absolutely, absolutely right. We've always refused permits for central car park. They've primarily been from businesses who've requested, or business workers who've requested permits. The town council hasn't supported that in the past. I think if members are minded to go forward with this, I think rather than it being open-ended, I think you need to build yourself a little bit of a option for review for both parties, should it not quite work out, should we encounter problems. But I think it's your decision.
Two thoughts I had, councillors, were that I wanted to make sure that none of our disabled or parent and child spaces would be affected, and also that we just need to make aware, if for Smithfield, that there are times when the car park is closed at least 4 times a year for fun fairs, Christmas Live, etc. And they just need to be really aware that, like it or not, they are not going to be able to access those because they're going to be a roller coaster in the middle of them. So, James.
It was along the same lines of disabled spaces. Obviously, it's a minibus. The spaces in the car park aren't massive. They are.
All minibuses, smaller cars.
I know, but it was a matter of they've asked for 4 spaces. Is that enough space for the minibuses to have the access to sort of a light, and or do they need more than the 4 spaces?
So we've been liaising with Andrew Roberts, who's the transport manager. I think I've got his job title right. You know, when the request came in, I said, we'll have a look and make sure that it works for you through the minibuses. Can you get in, and are the spaces big enough? And he's obviously put the request in, so I think a little bit of trust in Andrew and Cube.
Wendy.
Yeah, I was just wondering, will it be a specific allocated space where you'd have it marked, or is it wherever there's a space free, especially if you've got 4 minibuses, are they going to be in the same spot every time? Just
I think the preference is that there would be allocated spaces. Yeah, I think that's their preference.
Jonathan.
This might be a silly question, but I'll ask it anyway. So if hypothetically all those vehicles are in use for the day and those spaces are free during the time when people most likely use the car park, will people still be able to use those spaces provided that they were vacated by the time, or would they be like blocked off so that they are always vacant or used by the buses and cars?
Yeah, I think based on the practicalities of communicating when a bus is going to and from, I don't think it's feasible. The way I'd see it, they'd be 4 allocated. We're going to have to think about the practicalities of what that looks like and the enforcement of that.
I was going to say that,
because I think that's going to be a very tricky issue. Actually, having thought about it just now, we won't be able. So if for example somebody parks in it and they're not the Cube minibus, I don't think we'll be able to issue a penalty notice. So we'll be relying a little bit on goodwill for that, and a bit of guidance that says, I think we could leave a note, please don't park in this spot in future because it's used by, and we'll have to make it clear on the ground. One of the questions you may want to think, if there is some additional cost to marking the bays, I think we probably need a conversation about that, Steve, at that point, but I think that's doable as well.
Duncan.
Yeah, I was going to raise the same issue actually. It seems to me we really do need a lock bollard, you know, one of these flip-up bollards that you turn the key, because I think any other solution will lead to people parking there. You can put a note on there and somebody else will park there, and it would just, once the car park's full, people see an empty space, I'm afraid there's a risk that they would take advantage, and if you've got no means of enforcing it, then they're likely to take advantage again in the knowledge that there's no comeuppance for it. So I think if we're going to do it, and there's no difficulty doing whatsoever, it won't cost that much to put up one of those bollards. You put up lock in place, and then they can have the keys and manage it themselves.
James.
Sort of following on from what other Councillor Owen mentioned earlier, if there isn't a policy, I'd probably bring it back for a motion, right, but whether we should look at having a policy to allow for permit in our car parks. Like, obviously there's a lot of residential parking, etc. issues, and other businesses and other social enterprises in the town that would benefit from potentially having access at certain times to our car parks without, and therefore it would be interesting to hear other councillors' opinions on that.
Dave?
With my former original town council hat on, you've just got to be wary of how many permits get issued, because it's very easy to have more permits than spaces, and then you just have virtual fights over spaces.
Can I just, and I think there is not, so you're developing a corporate plan. We're already lobbing a heck of a lot of work into this meeting as well. I think we need a structured way forward, and I think if one of your corporate priorities is to review car parking, then I think that's a real good opportunity for you to get right into the detail of it, to do some consultation. But fundamentally, and I've banged on about this a lot, you heavily rely on car parking income to keep the council to deliver the services, and giving stuff away is it can't be limitless.
Jonathan?
Something else I've just thought of, would there be a separate kind of liability if, say, when it's parked up, someone crashes into it or someone breaks into it, or would it be the same liability as anyone else who parks up overnight?
Yeah, we accept no liability. I think we say, get out of jail free card, we accept no liability for vehicles parked, so I think it's down to the whoever's parking.
Nothing changes.
Yeah.
Okay, so councillors, I think we will move to the vote then. We are being asked to agree the allocation of a space on Central Car Park and 4 spaces on Smithfield, with some further discussion between our town clerk and Cuban Transport around some of the requirements to implement that in the first place. So councillors, if we're happy to vote upon that, all those in favour, please. Unanimous. Thank you very much, councillors. Right, we move over to the reports. That would be amazing, thank you. Thank you, Steve. We move on to the reports from the Operations Manager Estates Update. Oh, Henry, excellent. Thank you for...
Evening, councillors. There's 5 items on the report for consideration this evening, please. I'll do them in order. Madam Mayor, I don't know if you want the vote then on each individual point as we go through.
I think if you... yeah, I think
well,
we'll go one on one. So start and then...
No problem. The first item is weekend parking through the weekends of December. Previously, council have voted in favour of offering free parking in its car parks on the weekends in the run-up to December. So I'm asking today if you would like to do that again this year, as there is some behind-the-scenes work and preparation that needs to take place in order for the machines and the My Permit application to be set up. The weekends in question are the 6th and 7th, 13th and 14th, and the 20th and the 21st of December. And just to make councillors aware, the first weekend of the 6th and 7th is also the annual Borderland Rotary parade through the town, and also the Santa Run on the Sunday.
Fabulous. Okay. Councillors, we get asked for this every year, and every year we do support. I would like to move from the chair that we maintain that support again this year. It not only brings people into Oswestry, it supports businesses and encourages a better economy. My mouth is gone. For Oswestry. So I would like to move from the chair that we support this. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Jonathan. Councillors, all those in favour? Against? Abstentions? One abstention. Two. Sorry, Grace. Fine. Yes. Sorry, I can't see you, Grace. Fine. So next one. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you, councillors. The next item is regarding the Guildhall. It's actually broken down into 3 separate subsections. The first one's been the roof of the Guildhall. An independent survey was carried out on the roof to assess its condition, and subsequently provide a schedule of works needed. The survey identified widespread issues including broken, slipped and missing tiles, degraded mortar, lead abundance, blocked gullies, weed growth, damage to roof lights. The list does go on, unfortunately. If left unaddressed, there is further risk of deterioration and water ingress into the building. Unfortunately, that has already happened in the museum on the top floor. We have gone out to speak to our local contractors and asked for some quotations from 3 of them. We've returned to date, 2 of them have come back to us, and the cost is in the region of just shy of £29,000 plus VAT. If councillors are happy to proceed, the cost of these repairs will come from the Guildhall Property Capital Budget.
Okay, so we are being asked to note all of those additional costs coming our way, and to approve the works on the Guildhall roof, something we need to do. Mark?
I think we've got no choice. It's obviously needs to be done. And do you require a mover for that, or a seconder, or a...
I'm happy to move it from the chair.
I'm happy to second it.
Mark's happy to second. All those in favour then, councillors? So we are agreeing on the
roof.
Guildhall roof and the solar distribution.
Just the roof, that's it.
We should abstain on that one. Have we, Mark?
Sorry, clarification for that. I was suggesting that it wasn't just the roof, it was the repairs required. Is that all right?
Are you comfortable with that? That's Steve. Brilliant. Okay. We move on to the tree management policy then.
We covered the solar distribution bit. So Henry's given you an update on the boiler. Have you done that?
No, not yet.
Okay, do that. Do that.
Sorry.
Henry. Go on,
Sorry.
Henry.
So the boiler work upgrade has taken place within the Guildhall, with colleagues and visitors already noticing the difference within the building of the heating. With the addition of secondary glazing within the building, it's keeping the rooms warmer for longer and using less energy as well. In future reports, we will be bringing forward statistics based on year-on-year data to show any changes in the usage. And the last part of the Guildhall section is the solar distribution. So in the Estates report that was presented in June, it was highlighted the potential for surplus solar energy that is generated from the market to be used in the Guildhall. Within the report, there are some statistics in there to share with councillors. The stats show that the surplus could potentially power the Guildhall ground floor, with options to take that to the first floor as well. With the cost of selling back to the grid, along with the savings made from using solar rather than pulling from the grid, the return on investment could be in the region of 3 years. The data presented in the report is only over a period of 4 months, rather than 12 months. Those 4 months being the summer months, which is generally when most solar energy is produced. So the report for this evening has been returned to yourselves because I did mention that a third quote was going to be tried to be obtained. Unfortunately, despite efforts and conversations with 3 separate contractors, no one's provided a third quotation. So we have got the 2 quotes in, with the cost being in the region of £15,000, which is for the batteries and infrastructure that is required to pull the energy from the market into this building.
The last time we were asked, we asked you to go for a third quote, unable to get that third quote, so we're being asked to note the quotes that we've had in so far, and also note the boiler outcome.
So I think going beyond that, I think we're asking you, because we haven't got this through decision, to allow us to go and proceed with the solar.
Okay, Mark.
I'm happy to note the boiler information with pleasure. It's good to know that it's working well. The solar I would support personally, and I think we should actually be going ahead with this. So I'll wait for other people to say, but if you need a proposer to do that, I'm happy to do that afterwards.
Happy to second.
Okay. Excellent. Proposer second. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? The one abstention. Brilliant. Apologies, Henry. That was more painful from my...
That's fine. Thank you, councillors. The next item on the report is the tree management policy. Following on from the recent two-yearly survey, it was identified that council needs to improve on this tree management policy, so a policy has been drafted for your consideration. This policy has been drafted in liaison with a professional arboriculturist consultant as well.
Mark.
Saying more in 5 minutes than I have done last week. The tree management, I've got a question. Because of what I've seen with my Shropshire hat, do we have any trees and bushes which potentially on our land obscure essential signs and therefore would tie in with the management of them to make sure that the signs and everything was clear? It's probably a simple answer for you. I'll give you an example. It's not us, it's highways, obscuring no entry signs going into Middleton Road. They have cleared that, but if there's anything that the town council has a requirement for, I'm just wondering if we could do much the same if it crops up.
So would that pick up as part of a policy that it says we will do that work because it's part of our policy, or are you? So we have got, for example, CCTVs obscured by certain trees, and I think you saw that. I didn't see that necessarily as a policy issue, more of a, who should be doing the work issue. But if you think it needs to be referenced in the policy, happy to pick that up.
Just to come back on that, it's a matter of, I think, if the policy in general is not to prune trees, because, part of the policy, I think, was that you don't prune trees for visibility and things. And what I'm saying is, if you've got a situation where the CCTV cameras are being obscured, I think that's slightly different. And therefore, I wouldn't say that the necessity of not pruning trees because of visibility comes in. I think we should be making sure that things like CCTV and signs are allowed to be visible.
Yeah, I think that's I really appreciate that question, and yeah, I think we'll absolutely make sure that it picks that up.
James.
This is more just of a nitpicky, where it says of other authorities and then mentions the county council and district council housing land, just to maybe just change that. It's a unitary authority, and they're usually owned by registered providers and not directly by any council. And then Star land is owned by Shropshire Council, but it's a matter of they isn't a district council housing land anymore.
Okay. Yeah. So, councillors, we have a tree management policy. We're being asked to consider it and adopt the tree management policy. I think we've considered it, and we're being asked to adopt it. So, councillors, all those in favour of adopting the tree management policy? Unanimous. Yep. Okay. We've also got the terms and conditions for all future works as well.
So I'll just quickly jump in on that. Really grateful for Henry to do this piece of work. The Town Council has always gone on the contractors' terms and conditions, and I think having learnt and had that feedback, having somebody done the work, so I really appreciate that. Something we need. Ask members to support it.
Okay, so we are therefore being asked to also adopt the terms and conditions for all future works. Councillors, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Old Schoolhouse, Henry.
Yeah, just to bring to members' attention, there, the Old Schoolhouse, I'm currently liaising with contractors and surveyors requiring surrounding repairs that's needed to the building. The one I'm bringing to you this evening specifically is the main door. There's been reports from the tenant in there, and also we've had survey carried out by a conservation specialist and also our own quantity surveyor, that the door is a source of significant thermal inefficiency and pest ingress as well. The door doesn't close properly. There's been lots of patchwork repairs, shall we say, to the door, and it needs to be done properly. I have been in consultation with conservation officers at Shropshire Council regarding this as well. They have approved the proposed works from a conservation and a listed building point of view, but I just want to bring it to your attention as the work would cost in the region of £12,000 given the nature of the building and its heritage value.
So just an additional one for me. We're duty bound by financial regs to get 3 quotes, but please note it may be harder with specialist work such as this. We will try, but it might be, just noted, could be difficult.
Okay, so councillors, we are being asked at this point in time anyway to note an estimated cost in the region of £12,000 plus VAT, and actually, no, we're being asked to approve the approach, aren't we, rather than the costing. So the approach of looking out for people that could potentially do the works. That's what we're being asked to approve. So councillors, if you're all in favour of that concept, I'm happy to move from the chair. If I have a seconder, Ruth, thank you, Ruth. So councillors, all those in favour of this approach? Unanimously, thank you very much. Okay, Henry, thank you very much. We then move on to Duncan's motion that should have been heard last time. Duncan, do you want to give it a bit of an introduction?
Turn the microphone on, and then I'll say I'll be fairly brief. I brought this motion before the recent outbreak of flag issues around the country. It was principally because a lot of people have raised concerns, particularly in Pride Month. There's been an awful lot on social media, etc., about the Union flag being taken down to put the Pride flag up. Some people in quite genuine, normal terms, and some in quite aggressive terms. And I think it would be good if we could take the heat out of that argument just by ensuring that the Union flag stays up and then the other flags go up on the second poll. So that is the first part of the motion after the first bullet point. The second part was actually, I discussed this with other members, was put forward by an absent member tonight, but as I had put it in there, which is to have a look also at flagpoles at the front of the park within the area near to the War Memorial, as to whether that is also an option. So it's a request for Aaron to go away, come back with some pricing, look at the practicalities so that we can then have it come back to us and reach a decision at a future date.
Okay. So councillors, we are being asked to approve. Sorry.
So you've got a motion, you need a seconder.
So we've got a seconder. I'll bring in Duncan, then I'll bring in Jonathan.
Yes, thank you. I mean, it's a very strange time to be spending money on flags, isn't it? We've got a Shropshire Council that's declared a financial emergency. I see it's looking to make £140 million worth of savings over the next 4 years. We are not Shropshire Council, I appreciate that, but the residents just pay one bill and will expect us to be as cognizant of the difficult times we're in as Shropshire has to be. Shropshire, of course, has abandoned all discretionary expenditure, and this is very discretionary expenditure. We've had one flag in Oswestry Town Council over the Guildhall for about 100 years, I think, and nobody's ever suggested that's a problem. There was one flag at Shire Hall, and still is one flag, as it happens, at Shire Hall, and the Conservatives are quite happy for that flag to be taken down, or a Pride flag to be put up, and nobody has ever brought it to my attention, and I don't remember ever being a motion or discussed at Shropshire Council. So I don't know what's changed in the last few weeks. There was certainly no mention in the election manifesto about flagpoles, and there's been no petition. I think if we're going to run the council on social media, we're going to be in a very, very, very difficult world very quickly. Let's be clear, flags don't help anybody. They don't help the needy, they don't develop businesses, they don't provide leisure facilities, they don't encourage tourism, they don't promote active transport, they contribute nothing to the priorities we were talking about last week. But we're going to spend what will be thousands, because this is listed building consent and it's a conservation area. So the officer will have to take cognizance of those controls, and that will take probably an application, and that's a significant sum of money. And we just heard about the pressures on officers, so that's going to be another time when other works aren't being done, we're diverted to consider this suggestion. They don't last very long, flags. If you notice the ones that have gone up recently, quite a few of them have come down in the winds over the weekend. So at £100 a pop, that's what we'd be spending for a flag, and with all these flags going up, that's quite an ongoing cost, let alone the cost of somebody who's going to be taking up these flags. And in terms of order, any time that the Union Jack is lowered, of course, all the other flags will have to come down, because the law is that the Union Jack can't be flown below any other flag. They don't meet our priorities, therefore. We can use the money, and it was said, wasn't it earlier, by the member from the neighbouring council, that if you want to help those who have been affected, veterans, we can help them directly. We are struggling, I suspect, this year to have enough money for our grants budget. We had a very difficult round, and we've probably got more requests. We can directly help organisations in that way. It is not going to directly help anybody by spending that money on flags, so I will be voting against this motion.
Jonathan?
Thank you. Fully supportive of this proposal, and I'm sure that it would be in line with current policy, but can I just make a tiny suggestion to the wording? 3rd of August, St Oswald's Day, can that be changed to the 5th of August, please? That's all.
Correct, for St Oswald's Day. Okay. Sorry, Duncan.
I would like to make one point on what Councillor Kerr has said, because actually Shropshire Council is not at Shire Hall anymore. Shropshire Council is at Guildhall. And Guildhall has 4 flagpoles. It has a flagpole policy for those 4 flagpoles. One of those flagpoles recently broke, and Shropshire Council has replaced that flagpole. So actually the situation for Shropshire Council is no different to what is being proposed here.
Any other comments from the room?
I'll just make one comment. It's not regarding social media, it's regarding comments from ex and also current serving members. The flag is obviously patriotic. Obviously, there's lots of talk about it going through at the moment. But mostly, if a flag is taken down, obviously there's only 2 ways that it should be: half-mast in mourning, or it should be, if it's taken down, it could be declared as a potential act of war as well. So I believe that this motion is very important, so that's why I second it.
Okay, so councillors, we've got a proposal, Mark?
Yeah. The proposal is to bring a report back? Yes. And if that report says that it's unfeasible and it's going to cost too much, I'm sure we can vote on it accordingly at that time. So as the motion stands, I will be supporting it.
Grace?
As those of us who attended the Vision seminar that Aaron recently prepared, we spoke a lot about how community and community engagement and community involvement are priority for us. So I think listening to the extensive feedback we've had around the flag situation is part of that community engagement and partnership working with local people, where people have told us there are concerns. And I don't feel getting quotes is an excessive response to widespread community concerns. So I will fully be supporting this as well.
Okay, councillors, I will at this point, James, if you don't mind, I will just move to the vote, if that's all right. We have a number of more motions to get through, so I don't mean to cut you off, but we are going to move to the vote at this point in time. So, like Duncan and other councillors have said, this is about bringing a report to councillors, not to the doing. So, at this point in time, councillors, we've got a motion, we've got a seconder, so councillors, all those in favour of that motion, please. Against and abstentions. Okay, thank you, councillors. After the vote, is there anything you want to add, James? Sorry, just need to move on. Okay. We then move on to a notice in the motion of Councillor Lucy McKinney and Kerr Johnson, neither of which are here tonight.
Yeah. So given that, perhaps it would be an idea to postpone it until the next agenda item. Standing orders do say that the motion is moved, and if the two proposed a motion out here, I'm not sure they can move it, and it's not fair to discuss something without them contributing.
They've put a lot of effort into it. Okay, so councillors, I'm going to propose that we postpone this one.
On it, I think it's been overtaken by the agreements we made at the last meeting, because it talks about the buildings are made in a transitional state where we've made a decision at the last meeting. So I'm not opposed to coming back, but I'm just trying to say the proposers on the motion may need to reflect on.
Can I make a point of order that as we're not moving this motion...
Sorry, councillors, please don't talk over it.
I'm allowed to make a...
You are, but you're not allowed to talk over another councillor. Sorry, Duncan.
I don't know how much you got of that, but just saying, I'm no opposed to coming back, but I think they just need to reflect upon the decisions that have been made by the council at its last meeting, and then in the light of that, make a proposal. That's absolutely fine.
Okay. Okay, so councillors, we are, I'm going to propose that we postpone this one until the next time when they are able to be here and discuss further. Okay, so let's move therefore on to item C, and again, that's same applies, councillors. I think it's only fair for Councillor Johnson to be in the room to discuss graffiti and some of her suggestions for moving forward. So I am therefore, councillors, if people are comfortable, that we move on to D. And we've got Councillor Wilson. Fiona.
There's a lack of secure and identifiable parking, cycling parking in Oswestry. This was actually after discussion with Oswestry resident, and in the knowledge that we're trying to create a more inclusive area around the Bailey Head, I'd like to propose a sheltered bike stand against the castle wall opposite the market mural. You've got, there should be a link, but I think it might go somewhere. Yeah. The link shows you an example of what looks both functional and attractive, and I would ask that £2,000 of the new initiatives budget be utilised for this purpose.
Jonathan. Have you got, is there anything further you want to add about that, Fiona? Brilliant. Duncan.
Second, that was all I was going to do. I think, if I can speak to it, a lot of people have made the same comment to me, that there isn't much, and what there is isn't clearly, obviously, a cycle stand anywhere. They don't realise a cycle stand, so I think this would be a marvellous addition to the town, and fully support it.
Jonathan.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to butt in. It was just to ask. It's only just come into my head. I was thinking, will any fixtures be actually made into the castle wall, or would it just be on the paved area in front of it between the car parking spaces?
Just in the front. Just because it fits nicely up there, I wouldn't have thought that wouldn't be a feasible.
I only ask because I'm pretty sure the castle is a scheduled monument, so whether you'd need special permission from anyone, that's all.
So, I think we'd be minded to, so if council are supportive of this, minded just to take advice from planning officers, just to say, is this generally okay, given where we want to put it, before going ahead and doing it, if that's okay. If members are minded to support it, we'll bring some more information in terms of making sure that the costs are exactly what they've said they were, and make sure that the location's okay, and just give you the final sign-off, if that's okay.
I'll go to Mark, then Richard.
Thank you, Chair. But I'm supportive for this. It's an excellent idea. I notice in the motion that you're looking to identify other suitable areas as well. But I would ask, can we make sure that we do the castle wall one first? And then what we learn from that, if we identify other suitable locations, we can then incorporate that into those.
That's a good point, Councillor. We talked about that previously. Yes, Richard.
Just to echo that, really, I've been approached by people that, although we've got a very large car park in the middle of town, there's no specific decent area for putting bikes in that, and that's both residents and, of course, the bike shop itself is interested. So we'll take the learnings from this and see what can be done there as well.
Yeah, definite advantages to having a covered bike store, so that you can at least get onto a bike without having to wipe the seat if it's been raining, etc. Absolutely agree. Okay, so councillors, we are being asked to, sorry, my brain is starting to shut down at this point in time. We're being asked to note the motion and accept the motion. So councillors, all those in favour of this motion? Unanimous in the room. Thank you very much, councillors. I think it's...
Next one is F.
It is. I was about to say, I'm sure it's the gum one. Where's the gum one gone?
Sorry. This one, I've got to admit, is just like really close to my heart. But again, it's set in the desire to improve the look of the town, because we were talking when we had a workshop, trying to just raise the look of the town for not too much money, because we haven't got much money, but just to make it a more pleasant place. We have a gum problem. It's pretty disgusting when you look down. And the proposal is to provide a facility for people to dispose of gum in a responsible way using a scheme run by a company called Gumdrop. You've got the link. Just a small pilot of 2 bins, possibly outside Home Bargains and Costa, because you actually want to have them quite close together to begin with for people to really get the idea of them. And the need to promote the scheme. I've been in touch with the head of the Sixth Form and the Duke of Edinburgh at the marches, and they're really interested in maybe doing, for the social aspect of the DofE, them doing, going out to primary schools to talk to the children, try and encourage that, because if you can get the children to work, get the children interested, they'll get the parents interested. And that would cover, and what else? Yeah, to obviously do a thing with Oswestry Life, try to just get as much, it needs a bit of a buzz around it because they're quite buzzy things, you know, these bright pink things. I have had one comment, which actually was Oswestry Bid, saying it's a conservation area. But you know what, we've talked about the signs and things that are in this conservation area, which are really not very good. And if we can improve the whole aspect of the conservation area, I actually think they're applicable. So that's it, yeah. Oh, budget, sorry. Yeah. The cost of a 2-year subscription for 2 bins is round about 700, but I'd ask that the budget be allocated is 1,000, because that covers little promotional things that if people go out into schools, they can give the promotion, like I don't know, they're sort of tiny little gumdrops that children can have as to show what they are. Yeah, that's it.
Just as an addition, I wonder whether it's worth almost talking to SYA in terms of, so I attended one of the youth clubs at the centre 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. You've got an absolute group of people that very possibly should use that bin. So that might be a good inlet as well.
Idea. Yeah.
So councillors, we are being asked therefore, with regards to Fiona's motion, to agree a sum of £1,000 for a 2-year subscription to these 2 bins, and then presumably it can come back to the council again if we agree for us to review it.
Sorry, and it can come money from the neglected area budget.
Well done, Fiona.
My mentor.
Okay.
I'm not sure I should be advising you on projects.
So we've got a proposal, we've got a budget, we've got an allocation potential. We know where it's coming from. So councillors, I'm just asking, you've got a proposer, I'm happy to second it from the chair. All those in favour, councillors, unanimous. Thank you very much. We then move on to Councillor Kerr's motion. Do you want to do a bit of a summary?
It was partly a discussion around the Smithfield Hotel, which I see is going to appeal, actually. But people saying that building had stood empty for a number of years, notwithstanding it had got planning permission to convert it into 7 flats. But there was a lack, I presume, basically, the private sector didn't consider that there was enough profit in it for that to happen. And well, lo and behold, it leads to somebody coming forward with an application for 22 multi-occupied beds. So if there was a potential for the town council to act as a developer in this regard by forming a company, then it could have a role. Now, council wouldn't actually end up managing these properties. They'd be managed by a housing association. That would then deliver a line of rental income to come back. I mean, whether that would work on that and similar buildings is all down the line, but you can't get into doing that, and indeed we may find we can't get into doing some of the things we aspire to do at Lewin Mansions because it's trading without forming a company. And if you're wondering why there's such a restriction on council, if you're wondering why there's such a restriction on councils in that regard, it's because obviously councils don't pay corporation tax, companies do. So if you trade and you make a profit, the government wants its share of that. It can't get it from councils, so it requires councils to form companies if they want to use trading in that way. And trading in terms of a tourist let at the top of Lewin Mansions may well come, or even to a retail may come within that same scope. There are other town councils who have done this. I know we were looking at a town council that had taken on the post office when they failed to secure a post office in their town, and they operate through a company. So it's not as though we're doing something which is not being done by other town councils. I'm not even asking us to do this at this stage, but I do think if we've got the long-term future of our town at heart, we cannot but notice there are some very significant properties which have stood empty and are dragging down our town. And frankly, if we wait for Shropshire Council, I'm not being disrespectful to Shropshire Council, it isn't going to happen. BID haven't got the money. Housing associations aren't funded like they used to be able to move into those sorts of accommodation. So I do think we have to think about, well, what can we do to change that dynamic? And I do think this is worth exploring, and then to be a report back to us. That's the motion.
Okay. Fiona.
No, I'm just going to say this vaguely because I haven't actually had enough talk with a friend who was at the SALC meeting on last Friday, wasn't it, in Ellesmere? And actually someone put forward this, about taking in and renovating buildings within areas and then having them as an asset. And I know that, and I could ask Susie about that because I know that this lady is very happy to give talks about, and it has been successful.
Okay. Thank you, Fiona. Any councillors? Richard?
We've talked slightly loosely, but we've talked about the option of looking after the park facilities ourselves as well in terms of generating income for from refreshments instead of having to go out to tender. I guess my question is, you've specifically referred to about regeneration, Duncan, but could we make this, if we decided to look at this, could we look at slightly broader aspects of other things that might be useful?
Happy to set that. It doesn't need to be restricted to renovation. That was just where the obvious need I saw, but yes, there could be other areas. Ultimately, we have to decide what the purpose of the company is, so at some stage you'd have to define it, but we don't have to do so now.
Duncan, sorry, Duncan.
I'd like to hear from Aaron because we had this when we were talking about the neighbour plan earlier. We've had it talking about all the stuff in Shropshire. Aaron keeps raising with us the incredible amount of workload that's being put onto staff and officer resources. If we now set a hair running on looking at setting up a property management company, I fear that we're putting even more excessive workload onto the council staff, and I would be interesting to know the town clerk's view on whether actually he considers this to be a practical thing to be able to do with the resources available, or what extra resources would be needed to actually action this proposal.
That puts me on the spot, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
I think I was going to mention at the end of all your notices of motion that clearly there's a host of work in there. I need to do some planning work. The timescales around this are going to be challenging, and you do really need to think about what's important to you. So in the first instance, I think I don't have the legal expertise to understand what is required. So you would employ somebody to tell you, what would be the legal makeup? What do you need to do? And then I'd have to bring that back to you. So in the first instance, a small amount of work. Afterwards, I do not know. The legal makeup would be a community interest company. You have to appoint directors. You'd have to think about who that would be. In the case of Hailsham Town Council, who do trade, it's the town clerk, who's also the postmaster. Don't be going down that route with me. So yeah, so there's two stages in there. There's one setting up a CIC. I think that's fairly straightforward. I think the second one needs a huge amount of consideration and thought, because there are inevitable risks either way. So clearly I'll act on instruction. Did I give you a straight answer? Probably not.
I'm just going to bring Grace in.
I'm not averse to an investigation of the council undertaking a CIC trading company at all. I agree with Richard's point about it being perhaps needing to be a wider remit for the trading company if we did consider that. I, however, was also very aware of the potential costs and the expertise need, and I'd also like to see how we relate this into the corporate plan work we're doing at the moment, because if we bring this forward as a priority for the clerk to deal with, we're almost adopting that as part of our corporate plan as a priority. So I think people need to bear in mind that taking this piecemeal does have an impact on workload for our team, and that to me is dangerous, given we already know our team are struggling at a management level.
Oh, Jonathan.
If I recall correctly, previous administrations have looked at various ways of potentially taking on vacant properties within the town, including one in Cross Street that's been empty for nearly 20 years. Would this work duplicate any ongoing resources or work that is going into anything, or is that completely on hold and completely unrelated?
You've got that worry there.
I think, we talk about B-Wise building. So I think that particular project is not been progressed. I think is the easiest way to put it. So we're currently not looking at that as an option.
Okay. Councillors, we therefore have a proposal. Of course you can.
I understand, obviously, that we all need to be concerned about the financial situation and the pressures on officers. I've got no problems with that. I don't think this is an immediately urgent thing. It's a thing that can be done over a reasonable period of time, maybe even a year, to actually ascertain it. It's one of these things that we need to consider rather than need to make an immediate review on. I think in terms of application, in terms of property, and Richard, I'm more than happy to look at other areas, but I can't think what they would be at the moment, but I'm not conceptually opposed to them, would be that we're trying to deal with a landmark property which is dragging down the town. And one of our key aspirations was to have a thriving town centre. A number of people who say to me the B-Wise building means Cross Street is not a thriving town centre. It drags down trade, it drags down the look of the town, it deters people from visiting the town. So, I mean, when we were looking at places like the B-Wise building, we were trying to find a company who would take it on. This gives us another option. I'm not sure that's the right building, but it gives us another option of actually taking it on ourselves instead of trying to find an operator who would take it on. So it gives us another tool to use in trying to address these properties. And obviously the one that's most obvious would have been the Smithfield building, because it had planning permission for 7 flats, and we know there's a housing shortage in the town, and we know they would have met a desperate need for good quality housing accommodation. We are also in a rather strange position of being capital rich. We still have over £2 million left of a £4 million receipt, which has been sitting in the piggy bank for 8 years, 10 years now, and often getting a very paltry rate of interest because we're very cautious investors, as we should be. And we always said that we would try to reinvest that money to the benefit of the town, and this seems to be one way we could secure that.
Thank you. Mark?
Just some clarification. If we are taking on properties around the town, can I just clarify that means we will be buying these properties? I can't see that we'll be taking them on for nothing. And do we have sufficient capital to start trading as a business which buys properties around the town? I just want a clarification of if my understanding is correct or not.
I think if I can just bring in the clerk for one last comment, and then I think we do need to move to a vote on this and move on, councillors.
That's probably not one for me to answer, is it? Really, I think it's entirely down to you. To if you support this motion and we go do some work, then there's business planning to be done, some financial planning to be done. Legally, yes, you can buy property if that's the route that this takes you. You're going to have to. The key issue around this will also be decision making and governance, but those are issues further down the line. But I'm probably not the best person to answer that question, Mark.
A very short response, Duncan, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sorry, just trying to answer the question. My perception is that we do have the capital money. We are not buying property speculatively just to try and make money out of it. We're doing it to meet a need. So we know there's a need for housing accommodation, particularly for young people in the town. If we can find a housing association who will sign on the dotted line to take the property on, we can be the people, because they can't get access to, they struggle these days with capital, to actually secure the property, buy the property, renovate, maybe the housing association renovate, that's all to be sorted out, but then we would rent the entire property to the housing association, who would rent it on and pay us a ground rent back. And that money actually could be recycled backwards again and go round again. That's the benefit of having a rental income.
Okay, Councillor Kerr, do you have a seconder for your motion? We've got a seconder in the room with Richard, minor point of detail. Councillors, if you're comfortable, we're going to move to a vote, and to remind you that the vote is about asking the town clerk to look at this, and Duncan has already said that there's not a time scale, there's not an immediate requirement, so there's some clarification for you. So councillors, we've got a motion, a seconder. All those in favour, please, councillors. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favour. Have I counted that correctly? Okay.
All those against, councillors. 6. No abstentions, is there? No. Therefore, I'm happy to carry the motion.
Before we go, how many of us are in the room? Make sure we've all voted. Are there 13 of us or 12?
8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Okay. Yeah. Just checking. I'm under misunderstanding. James has left.
I'm maintaining my vote in support of this motion then. Okay. Councillors, I'm really, really aware that we have 14 minutes left and still a number of things to get through.
Can I help?
Yes.
Can I help? Right, let's try and help you for once this evening. So all the policies, they've been there. You've seen them for a long time.
Still got notice of motion before you get to...
Oh, is that? Oh, dog.
Yeah, we've got another one of Duncan's.
So I can't help you with that one.
That's fine. I'm just
Be a quick one.
making it people aware that we have got a lot to get through. So, Duncan.
Yeah, sorry. Trinity Residents Association, I think they're one of the few resident associations in the town, very effective, I can't say, sharing Peter's blushes, a very well organised and a very effective residents association. Like many of these associations, they really struggle because you can't get a bank account nowadays. They made it so blooming difficult. The residents associations, even if they can collect money from their residents, will struggle, well, I can't have a bank account. And so even holding cash and paying for meetings has become a problem. And it would be a real tragedy if resident associations die through no other reason that they can't get the wherewithal to book a meeting. And you can say they can meet in the back of a pub, but they don't know how many people are going to turn up. So they do need to run it properly at a meeting to book a room. And so I'm saying for their AGM, just the one meeting they have a year, not saying every meeting, they should be able to book a room here and we should waive the cost of that, and that's the motion. So any resident, obviously it's just Trinity, but any residents association in the town will be allowed to use a room at the Guildhall for free, is the motion. Sorry, there's a clause in the new Local Government Act, section 58, which will require councils to actually create new neighbourhood management models. So residents are and they're not going to be town councils, they have to be neighbourhood, lower than councils. So there's a real push from government at the moment to encourage residents and active associations and to give them more powers. So I don't know if Peter knows about that or not. So, you know, we're going very much with the spirit of how central government at least sees residents associations in the future.
Duncan, can I ask for some clarity, as my brain's thinking? Is the AGM, so it's a once a year thing, and is it after hours? Are we expecting people
Yeah, there'll be evening meetings, but we have our meetings, our rooms out in the evening anyway, don't we? So, you know, they're available to people to book in the evenings.
You're paying people to work in the evening, which is...
I presume somebody lots up as they do if somebody book. As I understand it, somebody can book that room to use for an evening. And I don't know how we cover the staffing costs for that, but that's the same process.
And is the proposal that we, if we are approached by other residents' associations, that it's merely the once a year concept rather than a regular occurrence?
I'm asking for the AGM because I think that's the important meeting where they want a neutral venue so everybody can come and feel part of it. So if that's not clear, I apologise for that. But that was the intention, that their AGM is taken care of and they can just focus on trying to do their other meetings.
Okay. Do you know how many residents' associations there are in West Austria?
Well, I think there's a couple. Well, I don't know, to be perfectly honest. I know of Trinity because they invite me to the AGM, and I think they invited the other members as well, but I regularly go along, and yeah, they've been very impressed by how well it's run and their achievements have achieved over the years. There may be others I wouldn't necessarily be aware. I think there's one in East Oswestry, isn't there? You may not know.
Okay, councillors, we have a motion in Duncan's name relating to... yeah, do you have a second, Duncan? Fiona's happy to second it. So we've got some clarity on how often, when, and anything else that anybody wants any clarity on with regards to that. Duncan?
Can the motion actually reflect that it's just annual general meetings then? Because the motion does not say that.
I'm happy to clarify that and have that as an amendment that writes that you've been able to book rooms at the Guildhall for their annual general meeting for free. Apologies, I probably didn't write it as well as I intended.
No, that's fine. I was just trying to remember how many, I think a monthly one, roughly. So. Yeah. Okay, Wendy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I find this a bit a difficult one to vote for. I understand Trinity Residents Association and other residents associations might need an AGM, a free room for that, but there's loads of other charities and other good organisations who all need AGMs. Will we be able to extend that to all them? I don't know, I just feel uncomfortable with this particular one. Thank you.
Oh, Jonathan.
Perhaps an easy way around it would be a terms of reference that can apply to any public organisation, whether it be a residents association, tenants association, neighbourhoods watch scheme, charity, anything that has a thing for the community, that as long as it meets the terms of reference, they can apply through either the normal channels or a specific channel, and it be publicised accordingly.
Duncan.
Just to comment on the comments made, I think we're going to do a neighbourhood plan, aren't we? That's all about trying to encourage people at a very local level to get involved in the governance of their area. So these aren't people who have particularly got a particular charity or a particular angle or particular objectives they want to achieve. They're just people who are trying to represent the residents in their area. And that's a bit of a thankless task, isn't it, as we all know, we're elected representatives. But I think the duty is on us. If we want to have a proper neighbourhood plan, we're going to have to find a way of energising and getting involved in local neighbourhood groups. If we don't have them, if we don't support them, we have to spend an awful lot of money creating them. These people are actually saving us money by actually running residents associations, and all we will be doing is to give them the room here. I mean, they're not applying us for charity funding, they're not coming us for grants, they're just one room to hold their AGM.
Okay, we'll move to the vote at this point in time, councillors. So we've got a proposer, we've got a seconder. Councillors, all those in favour, please. Anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay. Back over to you, Aaron, in terms of how do we deal with everything in 8 minutes?
So very quickly then on policies, you've had most of these, they've been on the agenda for a couple of months. Unless there's anything specific that you want to raise, I'd like to suggest that you take them all on block. So that's 13A all the way through to H.
John always said that. Okay, so we'll take all the way through till G. Is that all right? If we vote on everything A through till G, if people are comfortable with that, Mark?
Yeah, sorry, things are moving quickly. Just for the benefit of the recording and the stream, could you give the result of the notice of motion? Because we saw it, but it wasn't actually stated for the benefit of...
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I do apologise. The motion wasn't carried, it fell upon being put to the vote.
Thanks, Mark. So the town clerk is suggesting that in terms of the policies, item 13, that we take on block and based upon Jonathan's declaration that I suggest that we take A through till G. Are you okay, Mark?
I just realised why you went G.
Yeah. So we are voting therefore on noting A through till G, councillors. So all those in favour? Any abstentions? Any against? Okay, we will vote on H. 2 seconds.
Can you just vote this one through, please? It's just.
Yeah. All those in favour, please, councillors. Brilliant. Unanimous. Thank you. You go get Jonathan. Thank you.
Okay, so in terms of prioritising, most of the issues are for noting. So I'm assuming that we're not going to go Shropshire Council updates.
No.
So we'll put that for next council meeting.
Although if councillors in the meantime wish to share anything via email.
Item 15, Town and Parish Council survey. I suggest that councillors complete that as individuals, as opposed to us trying to do that here, if that's okay.
Till next Monday.
Yeah. So please, you've got a little bit of time. So if you can take that, I'll ask the item 16 to be proposed to the next meeting, if that's okay. In terms of item 17, reports from the Finance Manager, the budget monitoring, the car park analysis and market income analysis. If I put them on the agenda for November, they're going to be out of date. So I think you just note them. If you've got any questions at a later date, please email me, and I'll try and resolve to answer them.
Councillors, are we all happy to note item 17?
I was just going to move we note on block.
On 17?
Yeah.
Okay, fine, thank you. Councillors, all those in favour of moving on block? Thank you, unanimous.
So item 18 is Christmas closing. Well, I'm asking for your support. There's a change to normal practice, so I am asking for your support, whether you want to debate it or not. Yeah.
Seconded. All those in favour?
Okay. So now we're in the exclusion of the public and press.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Sandra. So on this, I'm going to recommend that